The secret referee, when adults destroy what children build. Every weekend, I watch the same scenario unfold. A young referee, 15, maybe 16 years old, walks onto the pitch, recently trained, nervous as hell, giving up their weekend so your child can play football. They're hesitant with decisions. They don't blow the whistle with confidence. They go with the shout, because they're still learning what match control actually feels like, and you, standing on the touchline, you deal with it. At least, initially. You understand they're new. You bite your tongue when a throw-in goes the wrong way. You remind yourself they're just a kid learning. You are, in that moment, fairly rational. Then comes the flashpoint. A challenge in the box. A potential penalty. The young ref bottles it, or gets it wrong, or doesn't see it the way you do. And something shifts. You stop being a parent, carer, guardian, a PCG, watching their child play football. You become a supporter. Emotion turns and you explode. I've seen it hundreds of times. That transformation happens in seconds. The rational person you were 30 seconds ago is gone, replaced by someone screaming at a teenager about competence, bias, fairness, whatever justification your anger reaches for in the moment. And here's what you don't realize as you're losing it. You've just given every other PCG permission to do the same. One person exploding has a catalytic effect. The touchline was tense, but controlled. Now it's not. Other PCGs join in. The ones who are biting their tongue don't need to anymore. You've shown them it's acceptable. Within minutes, that 15-year-old is managing not just a football match, but a crowd of adults who've decided a children's game justifies screaming at a child. Let me be clear about something. The game needs these young referees. Without them, grassroots football ends. There aren't enough experienced refs to cover every under-12s match on a weekend. These nervous teenagers stepping onto the pitch, they're not a luxury. They're not optional. They're essential, and you're driving them away. The complicity of silence. But this isn't just about the PCGs who explode. This is about the rest of you. You saw it happen at the under-11s match last Saturday. You felt your stomach drop when that dad started screaming. You looked at your shoes, you checked your phone, you turned to talk to another PCG about something. Anything else you felt uncomfortable, say yes. But you said nothing. You're not innocent because you didn't shout. You're complicit because you allowed it. The club official who watched it and didn't intervene, the coach who saw their players' PCG lose control and stayed silent, the league administrator who receives the match report and quietly files it away. Every single one of you is part of the system that enables this. That young referee doesn't distinguish between the person screaming at them and the 30 people who watched it happen and did nothing to them. You're all part of the same problem. The paradox we've normalized. Here's something that should make you deeply uncomfortable. Referee retention is at record levels. 80% are staying in the game. Numbers are up 20%. Over 37,000 officials. Institutional support is working. And 98% of them experience verbal abuse. Read that again. We're celebrating that young people can now withstand abuse better. We've built support systems that help teenagers cope with being screamed at by adults. We've normalized severe abuse as the baseline experience of grassroots officiating. And decided that's fine. As long as retention improves, that's not progress, that's adaptation to toxicity. The FA deserves credit for those retention numbers. But we should be ashamed that they're necessary. We've created an environment where the measure of success is, young people can now survive this. Instead of, we've stopped adults from abusing young people. What should happen? I know what needs to happen, because I've been refereeing long enough to see what doesn't. Clubs getting fined doesn't solve this. The parents who explode don't care if their club loses points or pays a penalty. That's abstract to them. someone else's problem. A stern talking to won't fix it either. They'll be back on the touchline next week, telling themselves they've learned. Right up until the moment they lose it again, the sanctions need to land on the actual perpetrators. The PCG who screamed at a 15-year-old needs a ban. Not a one-match slap on the wrist, a meaningful ban. One that makes them miss their child's games. One that forces them to explain to their kid why mum or dad can't come to watch anymore. Make the consequence personal. Make it immediate. Because right now there are no real consequences. Not for them, just for the young referee who goes home thinking, maybe this isn't worth it. Just for grassroots football, which loses another official. Just for your child, who now has fewer opportunities to play. The choice, that nervous 15-year-old on the pitch, isn't the problem. They're giving their weekend to enable your child's football. They're trying. They're learning. They're doing something most adults wouldn't have the courage to do. You, standing on the touchline deciding whether to explode, or intervene, or stay silent, you're the problem. Football isn't bringing out the worst in you. You're choosing to let it. Every time you lose control, every time you watch someone else lose control and say nothing, you're making a choice about the environment we build for young people. These young referees will leave. Not all at once, not dramatically. They'll just quietly decide that being screamed at by adults isn't worth it. And grassroots football will continue its slow collapse. One teenage referee at a time. They are individuals who seem, at first glance, fairly rational, but football is bringing out the worst in them. So here's the question you need to answer for yourself. Which one are you going to be?